Welcome home. You're back quite early today. Well, yeah, I bought sushi for all of us to eat. I was surprised just by getting a reply from my husband, who had been ignoring me for over a month. On top of that, he was holding high-quality sushi. Something seemed suspicious. I became more suspicious and secretly swapped my sushi with my mother-in-law's. Oh my, it looks delicious. Let's dig in right away. Come on, eat up. To my surprise, even my mother-in-law started talking to me. There must be something going on. Convinced of this, I pretended to go to the kitchen to make tea, encouraging them to start eating first. Then from behind the door, I watched their reactions. And then, my mother-in-law who ate the sushi started shivering and coughing. Unbelievable words were uttered by them. My name is Susan, 29 years old. I got married to Ryan, whom I met through my father's introduction half a year ago. I grew up with my strict father who hates dishonesty and my gentle yet strong-willed mother. I am, to put it nicely, a serious person, or, to put it badly, someone who can't adjust to the people around me. I have few friends. Even after becoming an adult, I had no romantic experiences. My worried father introduced me to Ryan, who worked at the company where my father was a department head. My father seemed to have high expectations for Ryan. Ryan's first impression was serious and friendly. He listened intently to my father's stories, and also engaged me in conversation, making the atmosphere pleasant. Apparently, Ryan had a good reputation at the company. He was trusted by his superiors and got along well with his colleagues because of his friendly nature. At a drinking party, when my father mentioned he had a daughter, Ryan asked to be introduced, and my father was more than happy to oblige. My father seemed a bit excited, thinking that spring had finally come for his daughter in her late 20s. It was the first time I saw my usually serious and strict father so excited. He must have been worried about my future. I wanted to live up to my father's expectations. I had never met a man who talked to me at my own pace like Ryan. As we talked, I became more and more attracted to him, and after a few dinners together, we started dating. During our relationship, I visited Ryan's family home and met his mother several times. She, like Ryan, was friendly and considerate of my nervousness. I thought, if I could marry into this family. And just when I was thinking that, Ryan proposed and we got married. I was so happy at that time. But half a year after our marriage, I couldn't help but regret it. The topic of living together came up as soon as we got married. My mother-in-law, who lost her husband, seemed to be lonely and appealed to Ryan. At the time, I didn't doubt my mother-in-law and accepted the idea of living together immediately. However, this was the beginning of it all. As soon as we got married, my mother-in-law's attitude changed completely. It was as if her previous behavior was a lie, and she began to see me as an enemy. Susan, why can't you do anything right? Dinner is late and there's so much food. There's no way we can eat all this. Please, think a little. But yesterday you told me to make more dishes. I tried my best to make them for you. What? Are you saying it's my fault? No, I didn't mean that. Anyway, dinner time is at 6 p.m. Please be punctual from now on. You can't even prepare a proper meal. I never thought that someone like you would become my daughter-in-law. This kind of thing happens almost every day. My mother-in-law's demands change constantly, and even if I try to meet them, she complains about something else. It was the same this time. After finishing work and rushing home, I finished preparing dinner at 6 p.m., but my mother-in-law didn't show up at the table until nearly 7 p.m. She complained that the food was cold and that I wasn't considerate enough. Ryan usually comes home late due to overtime and social gatherings. As a result, especially on weekday evenings, I had to endure more attacks from my mother-in-law. In front of Ryan, my mother-in-law would act a little more restrained. However, that doesn't mean she stopped scolding me, and sometimes Ryan would defend me when he saw her behavior. But that was only at first. Gradually, maybe he got tired of it, and one day Ryan said this to me. Please try to adapt to my mom. I was speechless at his words. How much more do you want me to do? I held back the urge to yell out. I want to adapt to your mother too, but her demands keep changing. Even if I try to adapt, I can't. Just be flexible. You're an adult. You should be able to handle that much. Ryan coldly dismissed me with those words. The friendly and serious Ryan I knew when we first met was nowhere to be found. The situation was getting worse and worse. Ryan started to side with his mother blatantly. He agreed with her complaints and laughed at me. His mother, on the other hand, directed a triumphant smile at me because her son was on her side. My mother-in-law and Ryan treated me like a maid. On weekends, they would go out together, leaving me with the housework, or they would go out to eat together even though I had prepared dinner. There were also times when Ryan brought home takeout just for him and his mother. The only reason I didn't leave their house was that I didn't want to worry my parents. My parents were delighted when I started dating Ryan. At our wedding, my usually serious father cried. I didn't want to disappoint my parents, who had such high hopes for our marriage and sent me off with their blessings. Besides, if something happened between Ryan and me, it would affect my father's reputation. So even though my mother-in-law mistreated me and my husband didn't stand by me, I decided I had to endure it and keep going. My only comfort was my pet cat, John. When I said I wanted to bring John, who I had bought before getting married, my mother-in-law didn't like the idea, but I insisted. Now I'm really glad I brought him. After getting married, John comforted me countless times. Somehow, I managed to get through each day until one day, it started suddenly. My mother-in-law and husband started to ignore me. I was puzzled by the sudden change with no warning or reason. No matter how much I tried to talk, I was ignored. Asking for a reason or trying to compromise was all in vain. Even when I tried to talk or did housework, I continued to be ignored. Then, 1 month later, Ryan, who usually comes home around 7 p.m. at the earliest, came home unusually early at around 6 p.m. that day. As I thought I would be ignored, I called out to him, "Welcome home. You're back quite early today." "Well, yeah, I bought sushi for all of us to eat." I was surprised just by getting a reply from my husband, who had been ignoring me for over a month. On top of that, he was holding high-quality sushi. Something seemed suspicious. Before I could feel happy about him finally speaking to me and buying sushi, I wondered, what on earth is he up to? As I found my husband's behavior strange. Moreover, Ryan placed my share of the sushi on the table first. For the past few months, there hasn't been a single time when my husband prioritized me over his mother. This is definitely suspicious. As my distrust grew, I secretly swapped my sushi with my mother-in-law's. "Oh my, this looks delicious. Let's dig in. Come on, Susan, eat up quickly." Surprisingly, even my mother-in-law started talking to me. There must be something going on. Convinced of this, I encouraged them to start eating first. "I'll go make some tea. You both go ahead and start eating." "Oh, I feel bad, but you're right. Hot tea is perfect with sushi. We'll start eating, so come back quickly." Pretending to head to the kitchen, I watched them from behind the door. After whispering to each other, my husband and mother-in-law began eating sushi. Then, suddenly, my mother-in-law started shaking and coughing violently. "Water!" Her eyes filled with tears as she struggled to speak. Ryan frantically patted her back. She shot him a sharp look. "You! What's going on? Why is there so much wasabi in my sushi? I told you to be careful not to make a mistake. What is this?" I put down Susan's sushi first. There's no way I made a mistake. But I can't eat this. I wanted to see Susan suffer from eating sushi with wasabi. But now the plan is ruined because of your mistake. What are we going to do?" I couldn't stay silent after hearing their conversation. "What on earth is going on here? A lot of wasabi? Did you try to make me suffer?" Both of them had a "we're busted" look on their faces. However, my mother-in-law quickly changed her expression and sneered. "That's right. We ignored you for a whole month, but you seemed just fine. So, we thought we'd tease you a little." "That's terrible." "What's terrible? You should be grateful just as a useless daughter-in-law to stay in the house." Even as my mother-in-law yelled at me, my husband didn't try to stop her. I couldn't take it anymore. I finally let out the words I'd been holding back. "I'm going back to my parents' house." I gathered my essential belongings and put John into a pet carrier. As I walked to the door with my bags, Ryan finally tried to stop me. "Come on, you're joking, right? This is too much just for a little joke." His unapologetic words only strengthened my resolve. Without a word, and without looking at Ryan's face, I left his parents' house. My mother welcomed me back home. At first, she looked surprised to see me return so suddenly, but she quickly let me in. "If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to, but if you're okay with it, I'm here to listen." I told her everything that had happened since getting married, how my mother-in-law bullied me, how my husband gradually took her side, and how I was treated like a maid. I also told her about a month of being ignored and almost being forced to eat sushi with a huge amount of wasabi. I told her everything, and I apologized for causing trouble after she had happily sent me off to get married. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I just couldn't take it anymore." "It's okay, dear. Your father and I just want you to be happy. We don't want you to be with Ryan if it's causing you so much pain. You've been strong for so long." At my mother's words, the tears I had been holding back began to overflow. My father came home from work and after hearing the situation from my mother, bowed his head to me. "I'm so sorry. It's all because I introduced you to Ryan. I had no idea he was like this." With a pained look on his face, my father made me feel even worse. Then a call came in. It was from Ryan. The phone rang for a while, but I didn't answer it at all. I kept staring at the screen, waiting for the call to end, and finally, it stopped ringing. That's when I noticed a notification from an app. It was the pet monitor app I had installed for John. I had set it to send me a reminder at this time to make sure I didn't forget to refill John's water before going to bed. Curious, I opened the app and pressed the button for live streaming. There, my mother-in-law and husband appeared on screen. What should we do? Susan isn't answering the phone. It's fine, she'll come back eventually. Anyway, what should we do to her next? Ha ha ha. What if she says she wants a divorce? I'll lose my position as the boss's son-in-law. I was able to pass work off to my subordinates because of my position as my boss's son-in-law. I can't afford to lose that now. Boss's son-in-law. Hearing that, I couldn't hold back my anger any longer. My father, who was next to me, felt the same way. He quietly stared at the screen with a look of disbelief, his hands trembling. I immediately sent a message saying, "Let's get a divorce." Several calls came in right after, but I ignored them and went to sleep. That Saturday morning, the doorbell rang early. Oh my, who could it be this early in the morning? I heard my father's voice from the entrance. Following her voice, I heard the voice that had been irritating me. Please let me talk to Susan. She's misunderstanding a lot of things. It was Ryan. Since I didn't answer his calls, he came all the way to my house. Not wanting to cause my mother any more trouble, I went to the front door. I sent a sharp glare at my husband and spoke coldly. What do you want? Susan, why didn't you answer the phone? I was worried about you. Worried? You teamed up with your mother to make fun of me, ignored me for a month, and then tried to make me eat sushi with a huge amount of wasabi? That was... At my accusation, Ryan was at a loss for words. I started to close the front door on him. I'll bring the divorce papers as soon as they're ready. I have nothing more to say to you, so please leave now. Wait, are you serious? You've never been in a relationship with anyone else, right? If we get divorced, you'll never be able to marry again. Are you okay with being alone for the rest of your life? Ryan's words only fueled my anger. I played the recording of the pet monitor footage I had saved last night. My husband, Ryan, was clearly upset after seeing the video. I said to him, "You don't want to divorce just to protect your own position, right? You don't even think of me as your wife. I'd rather be single than be with someone who doesn't care about me and abuses their power to oppress others." I showed a determined attitude. My mother nodded firmly at me, and then I heard my father's voice from behind. "She's right, Ryan. After seeing that video with my daughter, I asked around at the company. It seems you were using your position as my son-in-law to not only push work onto your subordinates, but also make them do unnecessary chores, acting like a king. I guess I still have a lot to learn about judging people." "Please wait, father-in-law. This is not what it looks like. It's my mother. Yes, it's all my mother's orders. She told me to harass Susan and use my position as your son-in-law to push work onto others." So you really were pushing work onto others? I was not only angry, but also appalled that Ryan was trying to blame his mother for everything and exposing his own wrongdoings. Ryan looked at me with pleading eyes, but I exaggeratedly turned my head away. At that moment, I heard another annoying voice. "Ryan, I came to help you." It seemed that my mother-in-law had come to help Ryan, but by that time, Ryan had already betrayed his mother. He pointed at her and said, "It's all her doing." My mother-in-law looked confused. "What do you mean, Ryan? I came here to be on your side. Are you trying to make me the bad guy?" "You are the bad guy. It's all your fault, Mom. If you hadn't harassed Susan, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't be talking about divorce, and I wouldn't be worried about losing my position." "Don't blame me. It's all your fault for trying to get rid of me." Both of them kept blaming each other, and my father, my mother, and I had no choice but to watch in astonishment. Their argument didn't seem to end anytime soon. My father, tired of it all, sighed and spoke up. "You two can argue about this at home. I'm disappointed to find out that you, Ryan, are such a despicable person. There was talk of promoting you, but I'm going to cancel that." "What?" Ryan looked at my father with desperate eyes, but my father didn't change his attitude. And then, our divorce was officially decided on the spot. We printed the divorce papers at home and signed them right away. Ryan's misdeeds at work and his divorce from me, the boss's daughter, became well known, and he felt so uncomfortable that he offered to resign. He's been trying to find a new job, but the rumors have spread to other companies in the same industry, and he hasn't been hired. He's trying to switch to a different industry, but it's not going well. After fighting with his mother over this incident, Ryan left his parents' home and started living alone. But he has no money and is living in a shabby apartment. He's doing day labor jobs to get by, barely making it through each day. His mother, who used to dote on him, is now living alone and feeling lonely. The neighbors found out about her mistreatment of her daughter-in-law, and she's living a life without conversation, receiving cold stares. I'm living with my parents again, just the three of us. Now that the burden from my ex-mother-in-law and Ryan is gone, I can focus on my work better than ever before, and I've been given bigger responsibilities. 1 year after the divorce, I see signs of a new spring coming in my life. The person is a junior colleague with whom I successfully completed a project. Since joining the company, we've worked together many times and built a trusting relationship. Until recently, we only talked about work, but lately, I've been invited to meals, and the other day, he asked me out. This time, I want to build a happy family, and I believe that with him, my wish will come true.